So today it's time for the real life narcissist story. Don't know, today I felt it's time to talk about it. So we met at work. He introduced himself with a false name, like it wasn't even his name. He just said that he has a new name that is much better for him. Not the last name, but the first name he didn't like. So he said he had so many problems going through the world that he had to switch his name. By the way, I'm in the Tuscan. It's just amazing. It's amazing. I'm in an ashram, an Indian ashram, and it's the most amazing experience ever, with the people, with the food, with the sleeping, with the lake, swimming. I've never been in such a healthy environment. Yeah, that's just something next to it. For me, he introduced himself with another name, so I felt it instantly, and I said to him, "That's not your name." I don't know why I said it, but and he said, "Yes, it's his name." And then afterwards, I found out it isn't his name. We didn't see each other for a month, and then suddenly he appeared on my Facebook page. He found out my name and started texting me. And as we were working together in the same department, he suddenly stood next to me, and instead of this romantically falling in love story, it was just like he suddenly stood there, and he had it suddenly in his mind that I should be his girlfriend. And mine looked very, very pretty, very charming. I don't know if every narcissist looks like that, but it was just like, after coming out of another relationship, it was just like, yeah, Prince Charming standing in front of you. The way he interacted, the way the words flew out of his mouth, the way he listened to me was just amazing. Yeah, so I let him into my life, and he wanted a date instantly, was sweet, he cooked for me. I came to his apartment and he really cooked for me. Nothing happened on that night, nothing, no kiss, no nothing. He was really, really charming, listening, always attentive. You know, the words in the eyes were always attentive. And after a week or two, he suddenly said to me he wants to come over to kiss. Like, it didn't just happen randomly somewhere where you just feel the feeling. He said, "Now I want to kiss." So I think after 3 or 4 weeks, we even moved in together. He persuaded me to a date that up until this day was just the most amazing date I've ever had. It was like a helicopter ride around the Matterhorn in Switzerland, followed by my favorite hotel that he found out, with pizza in the bed. And he carried me through water. Like, I'm a Watsu therapist, and he carried me through water. It was a feeling I had never felt before. It was really like a surrendering towards a man that I've never felt before. And he carried me through that water. We had the most romantic date, and because we were so busy in that winter season that we were doing in Switzerland, we said we want the next evening together. So where he works, I could go for a swim, and he said, "We'll meet and we'll swim and everything will be good." And that's what we did. I did. I was waiting for him. After 15 minutes, I thought, this is a bit odd and funny. After an hour, of course, I knew he's not coming. And then, I just didn't know. I asked his colleagues where he is, and no one knew. Then someone said to me he went home. I'm being bitten by mosquitoes, by the way. But I'm a donor. Like, the Indian philosophy is that if you let mosquitoes eat you, they will become in their next life like very saintly people. So I'm a big donor at the moment. He was nowhere to be found. So out of the blue, I started crying. Like, was not my way of being at all. And I started crying, and I thought, wow, he just went home without telling me authentically, like, tonight I just don't feel like swimming. I come home and I think, okay, now I'm going to text him. I come home and I had already given him my key for the apartment so he can go in and out the way he wants to, because we wanted to move in together. And I see the key under the door of where I enter my whole building. I think in an envelope, I don't remember. And I go upstairs into my room and I was like so shocked that someone can't talk with me. So narcissists, what I found out, they just don't authentically talk what's going through their mind, they just act. And yeah, I see the key. I asked him what happened, and he said he had a talk with his sister, and his sister is a Pisces like me, a fish, and she recommended him not to hang too close to me. So he decided that he should return my key. And for me, after all that's what I have experienced in my life, giving someone my key is quite a big deal. So that was a big shock for me. The winter season went on. We never had time for each other. We went from one date to another. Those were like the first red flags. Then we had to decide, when the season ended, what we're going to do together. And both of us have been through the whole world on our own, like everyone individually. So I thought, okay, two people who are international, like been everywhere, speak English, can find out a place where they want to live, or even just have the season in between time together. And then it turns out that he doesn't want to move from this alpine village, which I hated from the beginning where I lived. He wants to stay there, and then he persuaded me to staying there too, which was at the end quite a nice thing somehow. But I knew that with our backgrounds we could have built up a really nice life somewhere else. And he persuaded me to stay in that alpine village. Not just that, in the in-between season where we had 2 months off, he said to me, you know what, I'm going back home for 5 weeks. We will meet. He always told me where we have to meet, and then we would go on a journey, on a holiday. So my romantic vision was, us two on the Maldives, having no problems, eating, swimming, snorkeling. And he said no, he doesn't want that. He wants to go to Croatia. Croatia in May can be very, very hot, or it can be very, very cold. And he said it's going to be blazing hot. He didn't even look up the weather app. That's what we did. So after these 5 weeks, where I only got a few messages. So he really took his luggage. He left the apartment, gave me a kiss on the forehead, and left for 5 weeks. I was lucky if I got every 3 days like a little Facebook note. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know what he was doing, with whom he was. 5 weeks went by. I said, in the middle of those 5 weeks, I said, you know what, it's hurting me. I would love to see you, and I have time. I can come. Even if I just come for a weekend, I'll go back home. I don't want to bother you. And he fully blown said to me, no. Said, don't come. And I just stood there like, that was, the second big red flag. I was so devastated, but still, when you're in love, you're the first half year together, I was like, okay, then he doesn't want it, let's see. We meet in that city where he lived. Everything was good until he tells me that he's totally broke. So he went home, I don't know what he did in those 5 weeks, and tells me, yeah, he doesn't, to his name there is not much money, which isn't a problem, but, when I'm already on the journey, you don't have to tell me. So that was an awkward situation. We went on holiday. I mean, he wasn't totally broke, but, nearly broke. I mean, the last holiday he could still do. We went on a journey. It was always blazing cold. We always had the heating on instead of blazing warm water and everything. So we start the journey with his car, and his car breaks down. We start the journey, and First of all, we weren't allowed over the border. Croatia was just a week before it entered the EU, in the Schengen, and we stood there with the car, and we wanted to get over. We took, I think, 7 hours to get into that country, and as we got into that country, the car breaks down. So we have no car. He rents another car, like a rental car, and we go through that whole journey. It was the most expensive thing I did for really feeling nothing out of this holiday. If I think about what I'm doing right now and how I did all my journeys in this last half year, was amazing. And a lot of things I did with him weren't so amazing from the feeling. And it started already there, and I just thought, okay, this is part of God's plan, so I have to go through it. So we end up bringing that broken car, which took us a lot of money to bring back to his country and get repaired. And on the way to our workplace, because we went back to work in Switzerland, the car breaks totally down, like so totally down that we had to leave it in Italy and just somehow get to our workplace. We had no car in that summer, and he was like, yeah, if I'm totally broke, then I have to, reach a certain sum of money. Now, what I saw with the narcissist is that when they don't have money, they're still a bit of humble. When they get money, whoa, they turn like a card deck. Like they get an ego push. They feel he became manager of his institution. It was like a total different man that I got. So we get back from this holiday. I didn't take work in that half of year. And I could have gone throughout the whole world, and I just stood and stuck with that narcissist, learned a bit of French, had a French course in that summer. And okay, his season stopped, and he told me how stupid I was not to pursue my career, where we worked together so that we could always have off together and have our life together, even though I hated that workplace. Up until now, I think that's the worst workplace I've ever been to. And suddenly there were like little nags where he said, like, if I would have been you, I would have taken that job, I would have pushed myself through, to have that lifestyle that everyone dreams of. The season ends of him, and we decided to go for 8 weeks into a country in Southeast Asia or somewhere, or in Asia, where we could live for a while. We wanted to live for 8 weeks, and we were always deciding between Sri Lanka and Bali. And one day I just come home and he just had already bought all the tickets, and it wasn't for Bali, which I was which I really wanted. It was Sri Lanka. And I remember that I was sitting there like, I was so shocked that someone could just decide such a big project just by himself and then just give it to me. Like, yeah, that's now how it is. So I did those 8 weeks in Sri Lanka. While I was traveling, he had his laptop once open. It was in the former capital of Sri Lanka. And I see his Facebook account was open. So he had all kinds of things open. We had just one laptop. We had the Wi-Fi open. And I see that the Facebook account left. There were some messages. And I knew that he had still contact. He was still on, I don't know if it was dating apps, but it was like this hot or not stuff, which I just find bullshit. He was on things like that, so I thought, okay, if I see any message, if I just scroll through that Facebook account and I see anything stupid in there, yeah, I was just like, then it's probably very awkward to continue this relationship. So I saw a message of a very nice woman saying like, wow, you found a girlfriend, you who's always like this one night stand guy, who is she? It's sweet, and you just like you are in this relationship. And he writes back, if they would meet somewhere and they would have like contact together, it wouldn't disturb our relationship. And I just stood there like, I just couldn't believe it. And I told him, what kind of stuff are you writing with other women while I'm talking with you and being with you, and I'm the one who's on your boat and always together? And he just said it was a joke. It was like he's just joking with women, so I shouldn't take it too seriously. It took me weeks to get over that one. We got back to Switzerland after all of that. We had 8 beautiful weeks in Sri Lanka with ups and downs and crazy stuff happening, because not on this journey not everything worked out. We were the only Europeans in Sri Lanka really driving around. Didn't see anyone else because it's quite dangerous, but he was incredible in driving. And we got back to Switzerland. I did a winter season there, and the winter season stops, and I see again we have just one laptop. Again, I just have one Wi-Fi, and I see a fake Facebook account where he's with a fake picture and a fake name writing with women. And I'm like and he tried to pursue me that this was just something I dreamt and wasn't really what I thought. And yeah, I was just devastated. After I saw this fake Facebook account, I didn't talk to him for like 2 days. I just couldn't. There was just like who am I in this relationship? And I'm at work and I see him running. Our apartment was right next to my workplace, so I see him running up and down that hill, and I didn't think anything. I thought, yeah, who knows what's going on. I come home and the apartment was just empty. Like everything that he was belonging to him was gone. And he took the key also, so I couldn't get in. I opened the door and I see everything is gone. I was so shocked. But still, he had a way to pursue me after that. He came to my workplace, he cried, he talked with me. So after about 4 or 5 days, I gave him, that was for me, the second chance. So yeah, after all these winter seasons and summer seasons we had together, I can tell you every time he took his luggage and he just left the apartment like no tomorrow, and I had no idea where he went. He always said he's going back to his hometown, but I have no, really in 5 weeks, every time he did that, it hurt my heart so bad. Like he just took off and just did whatever he wanted to do and told me that a certain date we would see each other somewhere. So we met somewhere in the world. At the beginning I found it quite cool because I thought, oh yeah, we meet somewhere and then we just take off where we stopped. But it was a really funny situation that he always did that. Plus, he worked at night, sometimes as a security man, and sometimes never came home. Like never came home. And yeah, then there was the big clash is with a narcissist if you say a big no to something that is very, very important to them. And I said a big no to something that he wanted to invest in. I didn't want to invest into something, it was in another country, in a country where you will, even if you invest a lot of money or not so much, you will never be the owner of it. So you always will need someone, you know, to be a resident there, which we knew someone, but I didn't want to invest, and I didn't want to invest in that area, which he said. And after that, I could really see that the last bit of respect that he had, that was totally gone. So the last year that we were together was just like a farce. It was like, he didn't touch me anymore, he didn't interact with me on a normal level anymore. I could only see my partner normal when I was with him at a workplace. So I thought, well, this is the behavior he gave me at the beginning. And yeah, this money thing where I still have a feeling that he already gave money to someone in that country. I still have that feeling that he gave it already to someone and didn't tell me. And I thought, if that plan and that idea is bigger for you, then please pursue it. And when I said no to this plan, he said, and what is your plan in life? And I couldn't present a better plan, you know, something that he could hold on to, he said. So, yeah, he said, then I can't, he said to me, I can't follow you. And yeah, the whole thing just blew up when I said a no to something that was very, very important for him. And if you say no to a narcissist, that's a done deal. Then that behavior was like, he told me I'm his one and only, and treated me as if he hated me. And we gave ourselves another year to see how we feel together. We traveled like so much, but I was always running behind him and never had a big saying in these things. And now that I've broken up with him, and now that I've done all these travels to these miraculous places, this here is just, I've never lived so healthy. It's a place to discover. It's an Indian ashram in the middle of the Tuscany. I'm eating vegetarian food that has been offered to God. I'm down in the lake, that is a miracle in itself. Just living very openly, you know, it's like simple living, high thinking. After I have let the narcissist off the loop, I'm getting much more in contact with me. I'm doing these videos because I know how dangerous it is. They are soul killers. That means you can really, and I nearly experienced it, you can lose faith in everything. Like, they have so many ways to twist your reality. I'm a life coach, and he said, yeah, you can't coach anyone. You can't. And the world's not ready for it. And things he said to me were just amazing, that, it sticks and twists in your brain that it really hurts. So days go on, I tell him again, I have that train ticket running, and he's like, now I have to cancel all of these things. I said, well, then cancel them as long as you can cancel them, and we do it in September. And suddenly, out of the blue, like, he starts crying. Like, one evening he just starts crying in front of me, and I'm like, why are you crying? And he said, I just ruined our engagement. I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, I wanted to ask you to be my wife on the Japanese bridge in Giverny, near Paris. He thought it was a brilliant idea in 3 days to run from the south of Switzerland over to France, Paris, to Giverny, from Giverny to Germany, from Germany to Switzerland. I don't even know how he would have done it with all the public buses and everything, but he wanted that in 3 days. And I said to him, any weekend you could have done it. The only favor we asked was just not on that weekend. And I said, because you just told me that I ruined my own engagement, I just stood there. I think that was the second time in my life where I had no words, where I was just in a situation where my mouth dropped, and I couldn't believe that a person could manipulate so much. And I just stood there and I thought, the idea is sweet, but now it's ruined, because anytime we would go to Paris and he wouldn't fall on one knee, it's just like, yeah, I mean, and then I think, how would have I done it if it would have been me? And if I really, women can also try to engage men, and I was like, if I wanted to ask him to marry me at the Taj Mahal or somewhere where we also were, how would I have done it if he would have asked me not to do it on that weekend? And I would have just been quiet, and I would have done it at a different time. I would have replanned everything, and I wouldn't have said anything. And so that the surprise is still there. And that is how they operate. They operate in a way that I had with him about 4 moments where that was so full-blown speechlessness. That was the biggest red sign I had to get over. He was talking about engagement for half a year and then never again. And the last thing I knew was when we were passing a pass control somewhere in a country, where an officer asked him, "Are you married?" And he said, "Yeah, we do." Like, he nearly had the attitude like, "It's none of your business. Of course, I'm going to marry her." Like, always like, it's like being now in an ashram. It's not the attitude you should have in your heart. And he had it so often that it just blew me away. So I have to do this video in 3 sequences because the main red flag should have been this one that I'm going to tell you right now, and it's my brother asked me to come to a certain city, and I told him, and because he was broke, I was paying the whole thing. It was really expensive for what it was. And he was like, "Yeah, but if we go to this city, we're going to connect it with another city, and we only had like 3 or 4 days." I would even think we had 3 days. So he was like, "I want to go to Paris," which I thought was really a sweet idea. But I said to him, "Please don't mix and match Paris with the other city on this specific weekend. You can do it any other weekend." We had like, after that time that I asked him, like it was June, I asked him to just please focus onto one city, and I want to be with my family for those full 3 days. That's all I asked, and I never asked for a lot. And I asked that, and he said, "No, I'm going to combine this city with that city." And I said, "I'm please." So yeah, days went by, and suddenly he had booked Paris with a hotel, and he wanted to combine it with the Monet Garden, where I just went to this July by myself. And I said, "Please don't do that." As I said, every other weekend. It was June, from I think the 15th or 20th, from September on. He could have done that weekend with me anytime, anywhere. And he was just like so forcing it on that weekend. And I was like, "Oh, well, I've already bought the train tickets." And as I said, and I'll say it again, it's like talking sometimes like with a 3-year-old. It's like, this weekend, just please keep it to that plan. So just one six video at night. There were some behaviors that came with all of what I've already told. The worst was when I was traveling with him, and we were traveling transit through a country where we didn't need money. We both had credit cards. I think on that day all we needed was a hot dog, like maybe $10. And we came through the Canadian border. And in Canada, if you have the same apartment situation, you can go to the passport control as a pair, which you can't do anywhere else. And he decided that he wants his own visa, and the person at the customs didn't agree with that and found it very awkward, that behavior, and put us to the side, so we didn't get entry to Canada. Canada, the most loyal, or not loyal, liberal country I thought I would ever enter. And in Toronto, it took us like from 4 a.m. in the morning. The whole journey ended at 12 o'clock at night. And the customs just let us stay at the airport at night, so I was really, really tired. We got to the hotel, and the next day was the flight back to Paris. And he tells me, "Yeah, you go already to the hotel. I'm gonna get some money." And I was like, "Money for what?" And he said, "Yeah, this is my business. You never had to think about these things." So I think, okay, he's gone for half an hour. It gets 4 o'clock in the morning, and he comes back. And I said, where were you? And he said he was changing money, and he had to go to casinos to change money. And for me that was a logic, like, yeah, as if there was no logic behind it. Because even if you need money for the next day, you go to the next ATM, even if it's the worst exchange rate, or even the hotel, but you try to sleep after such a long day that we had behind us. So he left me till 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had no idea where he left and when. And that is just like one situation out of so many that was so awkward. He often left me overnight where I didn't know where he was, and he never got off his phone. His phone was always dead in the evening. So when I had already separated from him, he told me all the things that he was. He even said that he's superior to others. And yeah, as I was already leaving, he said that there were so many women waiting for him in vain, and yeah, just everything that was said had it was not even a friendship anymore at the end. So everyone watching and who has a relationship where you're not even friends, leave that person.